Alrighty, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our CEJA Workforce Programs Manual Orientation, Part 3. We are going to be here today with Michelle and Sarah, and we'll have this recorded and up online if you ever need to go back and return to it. Outside of that, I think we are ready to pass it along to our lovely presenters.
Thanks so much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the DCO Workforce Programs Program Manual Orientation Part 3. Again, thanks for joining us today. And as we noted in our last session, the 2026 CEJA manual has 12 sections, and we're going to cover them in a series of orientation sessions. This is the third of 4 planned sessions in the webinar series. The target audience for this program is program administrators and respective staff accountable for implementing the CEJA Illinois Clean Jobs Workforce Network Program. Then that is our workforce hubs, and the CEJA Illinois Energy Transition Navigator Program. Of course, that is the navigators. And then the CEJA Multicultural Jobs Program and the CEJA Solar Pipeline Training Program. As with the other sessions, this webinar is based on the work titles may include but not be limited to program administrator, outreach recruitment staff, barrier reduction service staff, instructional staff, transition staff, and data entry staff. Again, thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Please note that the guidance for each of these programs, as well as correlating policy, will continue to be formalized and made available to grantees. There will be a Q2-3 release of relevant chapters. In addition, CEJA and CEJA reserves the right to modify or update guidance at any time. Next slide, please. And as we have done in all of our past orientations, my name is Sarah Graham. I am the CEJA Grant Manager for the Southern and Central regions, as well as a returning residence grant manager, and I work on the CEJA Multicultural Jobs Program. Connor, I do not believe, is here today. Connor is my counterpart, and he works in the Northern region. He works with returning residents and does the CEJA Solar Pipeline Training. And Nate and Larry and Diana are not here today either. I'm not sure, Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself or just wait until you get to your turn?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Michelle.
Yeah.
I think they all know me from last time. So
Yeah. Okay, so next slide, please. In the chat, as we've done in our previous sessions, we asked you guys to please share your name, your organization, and your role. And as a reminder, the session today is going to be recorded and made available for review in the Workforce Hubs Partner Guide. This will usually take at least 3 to 5 days after each event for the recording to be posted. And I am going to share a link to the Workforce Hubs Partner Guide in the chat for all of you. So you do have access to that. One second here.
let me know if you need me to post it, Sarah, while you're.
Yeah, I just didn't want to copy very well. So,
Sarah, I also have it ready to go if that works.
okay, perfect. And as a reminder, with our, just general etiquette on Zoom calls, make sure you're muted when you come into the session, unmute if you want to talk. We will ask you guys There will be opportunities for you to unmute yourselves and ask questions. During our question and answer period, feel free to raise your hand if you have a question, and you can always provide feedback using the reactions icon. As I just asked, everybody's adding their name, organization, and role into the chat, so you will have access to that during the presentation as well. Next slide, please. Again, this training is the third of a four-part series that reviews each section of the 25-26 Grantee Manual to ensure that grantees can effectively implement the training program. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to cover chapters 6 through 8 of the Grantee Manual. If you'd like, you can follow along in the Grantee Manual using the link that was just provided. We are going to be covering chapters 6, 7, and 8. Next slide, please. Each of these three components we're covering today are quite significant to ensuring participant program and success. We are going to be talking about barrier reduction services, training, and completion, transition, and follow-up. Next slide, please. By the end of the training, you're going to be able to articulate the importance of barrier reduction services in equitable program delivery. You're going to be able to identify barrier reduction service requirements and allowable barrier reduction services and costs. You're going to be able to describe strategies for equitable barrier reduction delivery. You're going to be able to articulate the main required components of the training program, as well as describe strategies for equitable delivery of training program. And you're going to be able to incorporate core equity values into your program design. Next slide, please. So, CEJA, CEJA, DCO, and Workforce Hubs, Chapter 6, Barrier Reduction. The first hour of this session is going to be covering this information in your program manuals. We're going to provide an overview of the workforce programs that DCO is administering, as well as the main requirement. Next slide, please. Please review each of the section objectives. Are there any questions regarding any of the content that's going to be covered? If so, please feel free to add your question to the chat. I'm not seeing any at this time, so we're going to move on to the next slide. Barrier reduction services include wraparound support services, student support services, and transition services. Wraparound services and student support services help participants overcome barriers to participation and empower participants for resilience and self-sufficiency. Together, they create a supportive service package to minimize or eliminate non-academic and academic barriers to participation. Wraparound and student support services are funded through a barrier reduction program. Barrier reduction budget line is not subject to performance-based repayment. Remember from the previous sessions that the workforce hubs, including funding from the Energy Transition Barrier Reduction Program. CEJA programs do not include this specific funding mechanism, but they are also required to provide the same barrier reduction services. Although energy transition navigators do not have this funding mechanism, some grantees may also utilize limited program funding for support services to get participants to their first training. This specific program funding is already accounted for in the program budgets. We are going to be covering transition services later in the presentation. Wraparound services are defined as support services that address non-academic barriers. These can include various items, but some standard services are childcare, mental health counseling, and transportation. In order to receive wraparound services, participants must opt in first. This model of services leads to greater self-sufficiency as it challenges participants to think through long-term planning for services. All too often, programs provide a suite of support for participants while in the program. But when the program ends, participants are left without the skills or knowledge of how to address those needs. With the opt-in model, participants will meet barrier reduction staff one-on-one to establish services during the program and begin making long-term plans to address these needs. Student support services are defined as supports that address academic needs. Unlike wraparound services, some of these supports are mandatory for participants based on subpar attendance or performance. Participants may opt into services such as tutoring for math and reading. However, other services such as making up hours for missed courses, retaking post-assessments after failing, or attending tutoring for specific modules where academic performance is lacking are mandatory to complete the program. Through these services, students will gain lifelong skills to set the foundation for future growth and opportunities. Transition service activities expose participants to the clean energy industry and help them apply to jobs and apprenticeships. Examples of this are career fairs or other networking events. Transition services begin before the completion of the program and continue after participants have successfully completed the instructional pieces of the program. As mentioned, we'll cover transition services more thoroughly in the fourth section of the presentation. Next slide. Thank you. An equity-focused program culture should be integrated into all of your activities. In delivering each of the above program elements, grantees should demonstrate an understanding of how differences like gender, race, geography, educational attainment, and justice system involvement, how those impact individual access to, experience with, and success within the clean energy industry. Equity recognizes that each person has different needs and different circumstances. Programs with an equity focus consider these needs and circumstances when allocating resources and providing opportunities. Centering equity means eliminating systemic barriers and leveling the playing field for disadvantaged and underserved groups. True equity requires and works together with the other core values of diversity, inclusion, and welcoming, accessibility, and belonging. Okay. How have you ensured equity in your organization and/or service delivery? You can add your responses to the chat. Not seeing any at this time, but I will continue to watch the chat for your responses. If we want to move on to the next slide. Staff who conduct intake and assessment services must do so with keen attention to the 6 core equity values outlined in Chapter 2. Promote openness, There are no stupid questions. Empower and encourage self-defined individual and group identities. Participants can draw strength and confidence from how they see themselves and the communities they are a part of. Importantly, staff and everyone in the program must use person-first language that avoids defining individuals by groups by one narrow label or adjective. An example, use person people with disabilities instead of disabled person, or person people of color, person people with undocumented status. Person first language does not begin with an aspect of how society sees them, but instead attempts to include that characteristic as only one part of a greater whole. Participants are unique individuals, not defined by one characteristic of their multifaceted identities. While providing these wraparound services, this is a huge part of ensuring equity eligible populations can benefit from being part of the clean energy industry. Providing these services equitably must not be an afterthought or taken for granted. Many of the populations identified in this manual face challenges because of how society treats differences and has historically discriminated against underserved groups. Staff must know these challenges and cultivate a supportive environment free from prejudice and judgment. Doing so will help promote empathy, successful communication, and understanding.
Oh, you want me to send you the link I have just in case you have the wrong link?
All of these are necessary to meeting the needs of program participants and ensuring successful outcomes. Next slide. Thank you. Conducting service needs assessments consists of outreach and recruitment or barrier reduction. These are the typical responsibilities for completing an assessment with potential participants to identify any barriers that need to be addressed through barrier reduction support services. The service needs assessment can be done at the time of the application, during the intake process, or staff can schedule a follow-up appointment. The assessment should be reviewed and updated periodically by barrier reduction staff. Barrier reduction funds can be used for wraparound support services, student support services, and transition support services. Wraparound support services help participants address non-academic barriers that may prevent them from participating in the training program or transitioning after the program. These services may include childcare, transportation, tools and equipment, and uniforms, among others. Student support services focus on barriers that participants may face during instruction. These services may include tutoring, mentorship, and additional educational testing. Transition support services focus on barriers that participants may face as they complete the program and make decisions on employment or further training. These services may include career planning, assistance completing job applications, and job search services, among others. Please note that transition support services are going to be addressed in more detail in Chapter 8. Next slide. While not an all-inclusive list, these are the kinds of services that support staff will help provide to participants. The goal of wraparound and student support services is to minimize or remove barriers so that participants have an equitable opportunity to complete training and transition to employment. The focus is on equity investment eligible persons, graduates of or current enrollees in the foster care system, and formerly incarcerated persons, all of whom have been underrepresented in the clean energy industry. Grantees are expected to identify and address barriers that may impede these groups from completing the training program and beginning employment. Many complex and interconnected barriers can hinder our participants' access to employment opportunities. For instance, racism and sexism may intersect with an African American mother's need for childcare and transportation, exacerbating exclusion from an industry traditionally dominated by white males. The CEJA and CEJA programs require grantees to provide wraparound and student support services to address these structural and historic barriers. Grantees can deliver these services internally or leverage partnerships to do so. If partnerships are leveraged, grantees should identify partners with culturally responsive organizations. When providing English language learner services, match participants with mentors who have shared experiences. Apply equity values when considering partnerships so they understand the spirit of CEJA. On the following slides, we're going to go over a few examples of service needs included in the service needs assessment. These are not all-inclusive, and in fact, grantees should feel empowered to offer other services subject to DCO approval if they meet an identified need not included in the assessment. Each of the service needs subjects include allowable and non-allowable costs. A staff must know how to direct participants during intake. The dialogue in the questionnaire is written in a way that attempts to build support and mutual trust, and it utilizes asset-based rather than needs-based strategies. Please refer to your respective grantee manual for more details about allowable and non-allowable costs. Next slide. A significant barrier for many participants in the program may be reliable and accessible transportation. Allowable costs are public transit fares or cards, car repairs, gas cards, plate stickers, city sticker renewal fees, insurance fees, ride shares, or taxis. Non-allowable costs would be a car lease or car purchase. A driver's license is not required to participate in the CEJA workforce programs. However, it is a requirement for some clean energy jobs. If participants need to complete driver's education while attending their program, grantees may pay the required fees for driver's education and or to obtain a license or identification card. Some questions you can ask during this process is, do you need help getting a driver's license or identification card? Are you confident you can cover all the costs of obtaining your driver's license no later than completing the program? And are you confident you can cover all costs associated with driver's education? Again, allowable costs are driver's education lessons and new or renewed driver's license or identification card costs. Caregiving for a child or a family member can be a major barrier to participant success as well. This grant allows partial or total care costs. However, programs should also attempt to leverage alternate resources to help cover these costs. Some questions you can ask are, Do family members depend on your care? If yes, will you need assistance with your family members' support or care while in the program? Again, allowable costs are childcare, babysitting costs, and home aid costs. A participant's physical and mental health can be a major barrier to success. Partial or total healthcare costs are allowed under the grant. However, programs should also attempt to leverage alternate resources to help cover these costs. Some questions you can ask are there any physical or mental health needs you need help addressing to succeed in the training program? Are you able to pass the drug test required by some employers? And would you like to receive support to pass the drug test? Allowable costs are doctor visits or medical care, alcohol and substance use counseling and treatment, mental health counseling, trauma counseling, dental care, and vision care. Drug testing is not a requirement of the CEJA programs represented here, but participants must be aware that drug testing can be a requirement of some jobs. Barrier reduction staff must ask participants if services are needed to address drug or substance use concerns so they can pass drug tests and complete the training. Some participants may struggle to maintain stable housing, which can be a major barrier to participation. It can impact their ability to find reliable transportation to the program, the accuracy of the records, like driver's licenses they need to gain employment, their physical and mental health, and access to food and internet. While housing costs are allowed under the grant, programs should also attempt to leverage alternate resources to help cover costs. Again, questions you can ask are, do you need support maintaining stable housing in this program? Allowable costs associated are rent or rent deposits, emergency housing costs, mortgage, tax, or insurance payments, emergency home repairs to maintain habitability, storage of personal effects in case of evictions, and utility expenses. There may be necessary and reasonable costs to support participants beyond the identified services above. These services can be fulfilled through referrals, leveraged resources, or in some cases, additional grant funding. If the grantee wants to allocate grant funding, the support service must first be submitted to the grantee's assigned grant manager for approval. Only after approval can the grantee add the service to the reporting system and provide the service to the participant. Again, a question that can be asked is, are there additional supports to ensure your attendance and completion of the CEJA workforce program? So a question you can ask yourself is, what are some examples of barriers that participants might experience? Or how could services you provide help participants overcome them? Next slide, please. Often, grantees must leverage partnerships with other organizations to serve participants better and ensure they have an equitable opportunity to complete clean energy training and transition to employment. Grantees should refer to other social service professionals when other professionals' specialized knowledge or experience is needed to serve participants fully, or when geographical distance dictates that the other service provider would be more convenient for the participant to access. While CEJA provides funding to address a comprehensive set of barriers to participation in workforce training programs, DCEO encourages grantees to leverage existing funding programs to provide services more efficiently to participants. Leveraging existing resources can help CEJA money go further and provide opportunities and assistance to more participants. The partner guide provides information about several state, federal, and other programs to assist participants in accessing available resources for housing, food, transportation, and other needs. Barrier reduction staff must maintain regular contact with participants to reassess needs and make sure needs are being met during training and afterward. At each check-in, staff must reassess the participants' needs using student support tabs. Enter a case note in the participant's CEJA reporting system profile to record what was discussed and coordinate services with other staff, and enter a case note even in instances where no additional service is necessary, at least every 30 days. At a minimum, the barrier reduction staff must check in during training and as needed, but again, it must be done at least every 30 days. These regular check-ins should be tracked using the case notes in the reporting system. If no assistance is needed, explain that the check-in was completed and no additional assistance was needed. The case notes may include the following information: date of check-in, progress in the training program, the need for makeup classes or testing, the need for extra tutoring or support, barriers to attending or completing the training, the need for additional wraparound supports, any action items to address, and any new appointments that have been scheduled. Grantees are required to provide a stipend to all program participants who meet the eligibility criteria. Stipends are payments made to a trainee or learner for living expenses and are designed to ensure that participants can maintain financial solvency throughout the program. CEJA grantees may implement stipends, but they are not required. CEJA Workforce Hub grantees must implement stipends for participants. All grantees must comply with the program's attendance-based stipend policy. Any modifications to the stipend policy must be submitted to DCEO and your grant manager for approval. All policies must include the following items. Instructional hours are training time spent in a classroom, construction lab, or worksite practicum. Stipends may not be paid for hours spent on wraparound, student support, transition, or follow-up services. Some grantees must provide stipends of up to $13 per instructional hour, while others had the option. This should all have been finalized in your budget. Instructional activities that qualify for stipend payouts include classroom instruction, construction lab instruction, or job site practicum experience. Participants must receive the same per hour stipend for all instructional categories. Stipends cannot be paid out for asynchronous instruction. Stipend amounts must be the same for all instructional activities. To qualify for a stipend, participants must actively enroll in a training program. Stipends can only be provided to participants. For example, if they miss an hour of class, their stipend will be reduced by $13 an hour. Tardiness at the start of each scheduled day and late return from breaks may result in stipend reductions. Participants will only receive a stipend per instructional hour for the sessions they attend. Since stipends are not wages, Social Security and Medicare taxes are not withheld. However, stipends are taxable income for income tax purposes for participants. As a result, grantees must provide the requisite tax documents to participants by January 31st, following the tax year in which the stipend payments are made. Participants must be counseled to report stipends as scholarships and grants on their tax returns so that it is not taxed as self-employment income. A sample attendance-based stipend policy and procedure is available in the CEJA Workforce Hub's Partner Guide. Do not use wage language or wage equivalents in program outreach and recruitment materials, policies, or discussions with participants related to stipends. Participants must understand that taxes will not be withheld, so they must budget for the additional tax burden. To complete the programs, participants must have 80% or higher attendance per module. Participant attendance is tracked in the reporting system. Students who drop below attendance thresholds must make up hours or retake post-assessments. Grantees must have these requirements outlined in the participant's commitment agreement. Attendance must be tracked daily, but does not need to be entered in the CEJA reporting system. Participants must attend 80% of the training hours for each module to be considered in good standing. Grantees must track daily attendance using an attendance roster. The roster must be signed and dated by all staff responsible for reporting and data entry. Corresponding training, curriculum, or lessons and dates must be accurately reported, not including break or lunch times. Modules are instructional units within a curriculum organized chronologically by topic or theme. They must all feature a second post-assessment at the end of the module to ensure that participants have successfully met learning objectives. Each post-assessment must have a score of 0 to 100%. Post-assessments cannot be a pass or fail. Participant scores must be immediately recorded in the reporting system to track student progress and to alert barrier reduction staff of subpar performance. If a participant scores less than 70% on a post-assessment, grantees can manually add a red flag to their participant's profile. Identifying and removing red flags. In order to do so, red flag alerts are meant to signal participants who need additional assistance. The reporting system dashboard will allow barrier reduction staff to quickly identify participants with flags who may require additional assistance. Staff and instructors must meet with participants individually to identify what has caused their attendance or performance to fall below expected standards and work on an action plan to address those challenges. This action plan may outline dates for makeup sessions or post-assessment retakes, referrals for tutoring services, or more extended periods for participants to take post-assessments. These support services are entered in the CEJA reporting system. Once delivered, the services must be marked as complete in the CEJA reporting system. Grantees are encouraged to develop policies regarding makeup and post-assessments. If a participant's excessive absences or academic performance are related to non-academic barriers, barrier reduction staff must address any barriers preventing the participant from successfully engaging in the program. Red flags for attendance can be removed from a participant's profile when makeup session hours are added to the participant's attendance record on the training service they missed. Red flags for post-assessment scores can be removed when the participant scores higher than 70% on an exam retake and the new score is added to the corresponding training module. I'm just looking in the chat here, making sure there's no questions.
I've been watching, Sarah,
Okay.
and that this is so long, we might just want to make sure everybody posts their questions in the chat. We may not get to them, but we can always send out a Q&A if we don't have time.
Sure, that's a great idea. Michelle and I will just watch the chat and get back to anybody with questions probably after the session, just again, due to how long it is. Okay, the Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. In order to comply, grantees must develop a plan to reach ADA compliance and accessibility. They must have a coordinator who will ensure ADA compliance and accessibility. They must provide public notice of ADA statuses and compliance, and they must have an established grievance policy that includes processes for upholding ADA compliance. They must conduct a program evaluation and provide accessible program materials that are easily understandable based on a 6th to 8th grade reading level. Again, as Michelle and I just mentioned, if you have questions about barrier reduction services, the service needs assessment, and student alerts, please post those in the chat. We are covering a ton of information today, so that's probably going to be the best way to get your questions answered. Okay, Chapter 7, Training and Certifications. By the end of this section, you're going to be able to explain the training expectations of the Clean Jobs Curriculum Framework that will be used by the CEJA and FEJA workforce programs. Use the curriculum framework as a resource and tool. Integrate the 6 core values of diversity, welcoming and inclusion, accessibility, belonging, and equity into your program's training and instruction. The CEJA and FEJA workforce programs train equity-eligible participants to fill job opportunities within the clean energy industry. With the exception of the CEJA Energy Transition Navigator grantees who will not provide instruction, your respective CEJA and FEJA programs will train, prepare, and empower participants by fostering resilience and self-sufficiency. As a reminder, if you would like to follow along, you can access Chapter 7 of the CEJA Workforce Hub's Grantee Manual by clicking the link that was previously posted in the chat. And I am going to post a link in your chat for you to get to chapter 7 as well.
Sarah, I put that one in
Michaela
there, so
just
you're
did.
all
Yep.
good.
You're way ahead of me.
Just trying to help out.
Thank you so much. The Clean Jobs Curriculum Framework outlines how CEJA and FEJA workforce training programs are structured. It is important to keep in mind that this framework does not dictate what is taught or how it is delivered. Instead, it provides grantees with minimum requirements, allowing for flexibility to customize training to the needs of the participants. The first step of the framework is pre-assessment. This includes completion of a test such as a TABE or a bridge skills assessment. All participants will take an assessment prior to the bridge program instruction. They must demonstrate reading and math skills at a 6th grade level or higher to participate in HVAC, weatherization, wind, and EV training programming. An 8th grade level or higher is required to pursue training in solar PV and energy auditor training. Grantees must use an ICCB approved assessment test. Be sure to review the full list in Chapter 7 of your program manual. If participants do not have the requisite knowledge, CEJA and FEJA workforce program grantees should provide access to tutoring or adult education programming to make sure participants can pursue their desired clean energy pathway during the job-specific training. The Bridge Skills Assessment measures participants' knowledge in essential employability and clean energy basics skills. The first part of the training program is the Bridge program. The Bridge program acquaints participants to essential employability skills and clean energy basics. The Bridge program may run between 120 to 200 hours, depending on the needs of the participants and based on the TABE and Bridge skills assessments. Recommended cohort size is between 5 to 20 participants. Through the Bridge program's deep dive into clean energy basics and jobs training, participants are also preparing for job-specific training options. CEJA Workforce Hubs and FEJA Multicultural Job Grantees have several job-specific training options available, including solar photovoltaic, energy auditor, weatherization, HVAC, construction, and building inspector, hybrid, and EV auto mechanic, and wind turbine installation and maintenance. FEJA Solar Pipeline Training Grantees provide solar training. Grantees also have the opportunity to submit alternative curriculum as well as seek approval for alternate tracks. The process to propose new curriculum is outlined in Chapter 7 of the manual. The manual also provides detailed frameworks and connections to existing training programs across that will provide information about the field and potential occupations, prerequisites, tools, and equipment required, instructor requirements, training objectives, training outcomes, certifications, and an overview of existing curriculum. Keep in mind that if there is an overlap between the job-specific training curricula and the Bridge program, that duplicate content can be removed from the job-specific training program. For example, if the solar PV training includes OSHA 10, participants would have already learned this through the Bridge program and therefore do not need to repeat that training. Employability skills are non-technical skills that can help participants increase their ability to succeed in an array of industries and workplaces. CEJA and FEJA program grantees may use the Illinois Essential Employability Skills Framework as a foundation for their employability skills training. Grantees are encouraged to build upon this foundation to develop their own curriculum modules or use existing modules. The curriculum content for the essential employability skills should be 40 training hours. Subjects for essential employability skills include personal effectiveness and goal setting, time management, financial literacy, communicating verbally and in writing, digital communication, customer service, and critical thinking, among others. As with the other curriculum components, all essential employability training should be hands-on and scenario-based when possible. It should be contextualized and integrated into clean energy basics to demonstrate how these skills are used in a typical clean energy job. Instructors are required to deliver at least 80 hours of clean energy basics curriculum. Grantees may develop their own curriculum with subject matter experts and instructional designers. We recommend that the curriculum covers the 6 topics listed on the screen in front of you. All clean energy basics should be hands-on and scenario-based when possible. It should be contextualized to demonstrate how these skills are needed in typical clean energy jobs. It must allow participants to practice skills, set goals, develop plans, and demonstrate mastery. Introduction to Clean Energy Careers should help participants develop a personalized clean energy career pathway leading to promising credentials and career advancement opportunities. Energy and sustainability fundamentals must cover clean energy definitions in which instruction must explain energy, clean energy, sustainability, energy efficiency, energy conservation, and climate change, in which instruction must explain how different clean energy careers will help state and national climate goals. Safety basics include OSHA 10, first aid, and CPR. These curricular components are absolutely critical. Please review the exact details and requirements, including instructor requirements, in your respective program manuals. Building science principles topics align with the Building Performance Institute's Building Science Principles curriculum. It covers home performance and an introduction to building science. Instruction must explain energy use in terms of building science. House as a system describes different house components and how they work together to impact energy use. Energy and the building shell topics identify the main envelope components and control layers and describe how heat is transferred in and out of the building envelope. Residential heating, cooling, and ventilation describes whole house mechanical ventilation systems and combustion science. Instruction must identify the main components of mechanical heating and cooling systems. Evaluation strategies explain evaluation strategies of house performance, including building envelopes, mechanical systems, appliances, and lighting. And lastly, energy efficiency solutions describe common energy efficiency strategies to reduce home energy use. Construction Basics aligns with the National Center for Construction Education and Research, NCCER. This content includes intro to hand and power tools, schematics and blueprints, Intro to Design and Construction Processes, Intro to Construction Math and Cost Estimation, and to Materials Handling. Electrical Basics training aligns with those topics in your journeyman electrician exam, including Intro to Electricity, which explains where electrical power comes from and how electricity works. Intro to Direct Current and Alternating Current, which explains the basic difference between AC and DC voltage. Intro to Circuits, which describes how circuits work, the components of a basic circuit, and 3 basic types of circuits. Intro to Conductors, which explains what a conductor is and provides examples of good conductors and poor conductors. Lastly, Intro to Electrical Safety Procedures, which describes how to protect against overcurrent and electrical shock. And now we are going to take a 5-minute break. We are right at the 1 hour mark. So let's return at 10:54.
You mean
And I am,
10:05?
yeah, in an hour, come back. Yes, please, 10:05. I've been reading too much. Could not see the time there correctly. Yes, as Michelle put in the chat, please return at 10:05.
Thanks, Sarah. Hey, well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had a chance to stand up, stretch, get some coffee. I realize this is a very long presentation today, and again, just a reminder, post your questions in the chat. We may not get to them today due to the length of the session, but we will address your questions. And we can also, if we see a lot, we can also talk about it in a TA Tuesday or even one-on-one when we have any kind of weekly check-ins. And again, these are slides from our manual that we've had a team develop highlighting important information from the manual chapters. So I'm going to turn my camera off and I'm going to present the next half. And again, I'm Michelle Cerruti. I'm the Southern CEJA Regional Administrator. So I'm gonna turn my camera off just because it's helps with my bandwidth. So, okay. So next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about the required curriculum components. The curriculum framework contains requirements and training guidelines for each option with guidance regarding program delivery and instructional content. Training providers must align their curriculum with these guidelines and requirements, but there is some ample flexibility to make sure that grantees can provide training that prepares participants for available clean energy jobs. So required curriculum components, except for the FEJA, FEJA Solar Pipeline Training Program, which focuses on solar training, and the Energy Transition Navigators, which do not provide training, the other CEJA and FEJA workforce programs could provide multiple clean energy options that were shown on the previous slide. Chapter 7 of your respective program manual includes specific requirements that align with industry standards for each of the job-specific options. And so demonstration of need for the training, training outcomes, job roles trained by this training, career progression, prerequisites, learning environment and format, tools and equipment, instructor requirements, training objectives, curriculum content review, assessment methods, certification, references, and example of curriculum. So these are resources for your guidance. Your curriculum should follow the parameters that are laid out in the framework and the manual, but they need not be followed to a T. They don't have to be perfect along of what's shown in the manual. Keep in mind that this is a framework and will be updated later this year. So the DCO team will provide you with updates when they are available. One of the most important parts of your curriculum is whether it speaks to clean energy job demand. And the best way to learn what jobs are needed is to actually be speaking with your employers. Center your employer partners when planning your training for year 2, and make sure you're offering a recognized and in-demand industry credential. These job specific options should be considered maximally inclusive. Solar careers, for instance, may also include sales and customer service positions, while HVAC may include energy and auditing and weatherization positions. Work with credential providers to ensure your curriculum meets requirements. If you're not working with credential providers, you risk training participants for an unrecognized certification that doesn't meet industry needs. Next slide. So, again, equity in training. Commitment to these equity values means upholding them in all program elements and intentionally pursuing policies and practices to support all program participants and team members. Equity also means developing genuine and quality relationships between and among all levels of staff, as well as program participants. Equity helps gain mutual trust, and trust is vital to a successful program. So, for the most part, grantees will deliver off-the-shelf curricula already developed by trusted organizations in the industry, such as NABCEP and NCCER for solar. However, some curriculum sectors are more open, and grantees may utilize existing training modules or develop their own. So there are several key characteristics of training materials and courses that grantees should evaluate when creating original curricula or implementing off-the-shelf curricula. Training program goals are statements that capture the desired outcomes for a training program. Effective training goals and specific, measurable, and focused on participant learning objectives and performance outcomes. The training goals help ensure that training content is focused on the program's intent, that the course design meets the intended expectations, and the instructors and the participants' expectations are aligned. So, learning objectives, these are statements that capture the expected knowledge and information participants attain following instruction. Performance outcomes are statements that capture participants' expected skills, behaviors, and attitudes following instruction. Start time and end time are pretty self-explanatory. They help ensure that the program stays within the allocated time frames, including for instruction as well as breaks. Content is what is being taught during training, and modality is the instruction format or the context. Maybe it's face-to-face instruction, maybe it's virtual instruction, or it could be work-based learning instruction. Training strategy is how the content will be taught to achieve learning objectives or performance outcomes. And resources are the digital content, the print content, and other equipment and supplies required to facilitate instruction during the training program. Assessment is whatever method that determines the impact of training on participants based on the objectives or performance outcomes. If grantees need assistance evaluating off-the-shelf training modules or developing new modules, they can reach out to their grant managers or regional administrators for assistance. Refer to the Workforce Hub Partner Guide for sample instructional plans as well. So training aims to increase knowledge, develop skills, impact attitudes, and or influence behaviors in an individual to accomplish specific job tasks or goals. It's focused on employer needs and aims to impact and improve performance. This is an important distinction from teaching, which often focuses less on skill building and more on information dissemination, knowledge acquisition, and learning. Grantees are expected to offer experiential training or develop by doing. The bridge program's essential employability skills and clean energy basics should be delivered in a way that demonstrates how they relate to and are used in typical clean energy jobs. Programs must be immersive experiences that provide training that aligns with the skills employers need in their respective economic regions. So, by tailoring programs to employer needs, grantees better prepare participants to meet the minimum entry-level requirements of clean energy job and support participants' long-term professional goals in the clean energy industry. So, developing employer partnerships is an important part of this. It's crucial. With a clean energy employer partner, grantees can respond to the employer needs and often career awareness activities, job shadowing, and hands-on workplace experience. Ultimately, the classroom must be inclusive. It's a place where participants know their cultural values, current knowledge, and experiences are transferable and reflected in the clean energy industry. Instructors should share relevant examples and tell relatable stories during training. Beyond the pre-assessments, Before the start of the bridge program, learning assessments are used to determine if learning objectives and performance outcomes are being met by participants. So you'll need to assess whether participants gain knowledge and skills required by the program. So we're calling this instructional assessments because we also understand there's pre-assessments as well. So if you're using a curriculum that has already been developed, it's likely that there will be some built-in learning assessments, quizzes, certification exams, worksheets, etc. Grantees will need to develop assessments for certain components of the curriculum, such as essential employability skills or clean energy basics. We recommend using subject matter experts and instructional designers to create assessments and curricula, though your instructors may already have this experience. Grantees must utilize assessments before, during, and after training, and after the training is complete to measure learning and identify the need for further training. A variety of different assessment strategies are encouraged to account for participants' unique learning styles. As with other kinds of assessments, connections, and follow-ups throughout the CEJA and FEJA workforce programs, coordinators and other grantee staff must uphold the six equity values and communicate clearly with care, empathy, and sensitivity to the diverse needs and situations of participants. Embrace differences and remember that individual characteristics and challenges do not define a person's whole identity. So, instructional assessments, suggested assessments before training. These are pre-assessments or quizzes to ID where participants are currently and ID areas where they may need special attention. Then there's suggested assessments during training, such as maybe reflective writing prompts and dialogue, informal interviews, aptitude tests and quizzes. There's also suggested assessments at the end of training. It could be role playing on job scenarios, formal demonstrations with evaluations by the instructor, and certification exams. Grantees must include, as part of their program, opportunities for participants to do clean energy work at job sites while taking instruction or immediately after completing instruction. Work-based learning is an extension of the training room into a working environment with the goal of acquiring real-world knowledge and developing technical job-based skills related to future employment in the respective clean energy profession or industry. So work-based learning intentionally merges academic theory with real-world practice application. Work-based learning provides participants with career awareness, career exploration, and career planning. They develop work-based competencies and employability skills. So grantees should outline existing or planned partnerships for work-based learning. Grantees will provide a minimum of 10 hours of work-based learning. So again, a training modality is a form of learning content delivery such as face-to-face online training or instruction-led training or video training, among others. So modalities are appropriate for clean energy workforce training include, but are not limited to, face-to-face training, virtual training, blended learning, and even small groups. Each of these modalities has its advantages and disadvantages in the learning environment, and successful training program employs them effectively. Next slide. Next slide, please. Are you there? Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. I just want to make sure I didn't get disconnected. Uh, so how do you learn best with what modalities? What modalities have been successful for your training programs, and why do you think that is? Again, we ask that you just put your ideas in the chat for everyone to view since we are kind of short on time today. So next question. Next slide, please. Thank you. So grantees are required to develop a curriculum plan as part of their work plan based on the requirements set forth in the Clean Jobs Curriculum Framework. Grant managers and regional managers will review and assess the submitted curriculum plan that is part of the project work plan. So this must be submitted at least 2 weeks before your start dates, before the start date of your program. So please allow at least a week for feedback and/or approval. Once the project work plan, which includes the curriculum plan, I know many of you are working on that now if you haven't got that done already. Um, Once that entire work plan is approved, the grantee will then enter the information from that work plan into the CEJA reporting system. Then the information that's been entered by the grantee will be validated, and um, the grant manager or RA will approve that that information was entered correctly into the CEJA reporting system. If anything changes in the curriculum, if changes to the curriculum are necessary after it's already been approved, grantees must email their grant manager and RA who will review the request. And if approved, the grant manager or RA will modify the training services in the CEJA reporting system as needed and address any necessary changes to the participant profile and update the project work plan. So is your program planning to implement any additional curricula content? And if so, what supplemental curricula support would be most beneficial or most helpful to your participants? Again, just throw that in the chat. That way other people can see some of your ideas as well. Next slide, please. What questions do you have about the curriculum and the required training? Throw those in the chat. Again, we'll also do TA Tuesdays, and you'll have check-ins with your team as well to get those answered. And so now we're going to discuss Chapter 8, which is program completion, transition services, and follow-up. So let's go over the objectives for Chapter 8. So by the end of this section, you will be able to reference program completion definitions, complete the required pre-transition career assessment and transition plan, describe transition staff responsibilities, provide transition and follow-up services, differentiate between active follow-up versus long-term follow-up, and integrate the core values of diversity, welcoming and inclusion, accessibility, belonging, and equity into all elements of your program's transition services and follow-up activities. Next slide, please. And we'll go ahead and go to the next slide as well. I think we went through all that already. So go ahead and go to the next slide regarding program completion. Oh, hang on. Okay. You're a little ahead of me. Um,
Sorry, my apologies.
that's okay. Let's go back to the program completion slide. One more. Couple more.
Uh,
Couple up. One more. There we go.
There we go. My apologies.
No worries. That's okay. So program completion occurs when the participant has achieved one or both of the following. Met the testing and attendance requirements outlined in the Bridge Program component of the Clean Jobs Curriculum Framework, which includes receiving satisfactory grade on post-assessments, which is 70% or higher, attending at least 80% of the sessions related to essential employability skills and clean energy basics, and meeting requirements to receive OSHA 10 and First Aid CPR certifications, completing all worksite and work-based learning training requirements associated with the Bridge Program curriculum. Also, met the testing and attendance requirements outlined in one or more job-specific training options as described in the Clean Energy Job Curriculum Framework. These include receiving a satisfactory grade on post assessments, which is 70% or higher, attending at least 80% of the sessions for each module, meeting requirements to prepare for the certification exams, and completing all worksite or work-based learning training requirements. Successful completion of the bridge program and the job-specific training will be reported in the CEJA reporting system. Those who successfully complete either or both of these two training elements are referred to as individuals who complete. While not required, some grantees may opt to host celebratory ceremonies or offer additional certificates of completion beyond the CEJA certificate of completion. And we do have a CEJA certificate of completion. Program exit. A participant exits the program when they no longer receive any services from the program. While program completion refers to the conclusion of training services, program exit refers to the cessation of all services, including transition and barrier reduction services. A participant who exits the program may return to the same or another CEJA program, but would not need to reapply and re-enroll. Program exit, program completion refers to the conclusion of training services. I think I'm going to skip that because I just read all that, so I don't need to read that again. You can read the slide. So again, program exit has an in progress, a withdrawal, and a participant feedback survey. Next question, next slide. Program exit in progress. Some participants may participate in the program but are unable to graduate because they have not met all program requirements. Maybe they failed a certification exam, or they didn't attend the required number of training sessions. In this instance, they are marked as in progress in the CEJA reporting system. Barrier reduction staff must establish an action plan to put them on the path to successful completion within a year of their enrollment in the program. For some, this will simply require them to retake an exam, while others might need to complete some specific modules, may need tutoring, particularly if they were absent from the program for long periods of time. They may need to retake a module. If participants need to wait for a new cohort to retake modules, grantees must continue engagement with the participants to ensure they can return and successfully complete the program. Participants must complete these requirements within 1 calendar year from the start of their training. A participant who does not complete the requirements within 1 year must reapply and enroll. So program exit, or when we're talking about withdrawal, participants may withdraw from the program due to unseen circumstances that make successful completion difficult or impossible. Some reasons for withdrawal may include, but are not limited to, moving out of the state, lack of interest in the clean energy industry, life-changing events requiring full-time employment, maybe an illness. Before a participant's withdrawal is finalized, the barrier reduction staff again must meet with the participant to determine if there are any barrier reduction services that can be offered to keep the participant from withdrawing. In some circumstances, additional support may help the participant change their decision to withdraw. Also, once the withdrawal decision is finalized, grantees must conduct an exit interview with the participant. So this is an opportunity to seek participant feedback on the program. So the barrier reduction staff will either meet with the participant, if possible, or call the participant to complete the exit interview questionnaire. And this questionnaire is then uploaded to the participant profile in the CEJA reporting system. And grantees must also ask if follow-up contact would be welcomed. In some cases, individuals may seek to enroll at a future date. A hard copy of the exit interview questionnaire is available in the partner guide. In some cases, let's see, I think, okay, let's go to the next slide. That was a read. Okay. Dismissals are also classified as withdrawals. This occurs when participants fail to comply with the terms of their commitment agreement or violate program policies. Grantees must maintain a dismissal policy that outlines a standard procedure for how, when, and why participants can be dismissed. Once dismissal has been confirmed, all services must be terminated through the CEJA reporting system. A formal dismissal letter must be provided to the participant, and a copy must be saved in the participant's profile in the CEJA reporting system, outlining the reasons for dismissal and the process that was followed by the program. Next slide. All participants who have completed the program will be asked to provide feedback on their program experience through a participant feedback survey. Asking participants to complete the survey is a mandatory step. The survey can be assessed by participants via a computer, mobile device, or through a link provided by a program administrator. All responses to the survey are anonymous, and individual data will not be made available to grantees. However, grantees will be provided with the aggregate information from their participants as a tool to improve programming. And for more information regarding this survey, refer to chapter 12, using data for program improvement and management. Next slide. So why might it be important to capture feedback for participants exiting before completion? If you have any comments you'd like to throw in the chat, we welcome those. Next slide, please. Transition career services. These services involve activities that expose participants to clean energy job opportunities and advanced training programs and help them gain employment. This can be achieved by involving participants in relevant industry events, such as career fairs, trade-related networking events, assisting them with applications, preparing them for testing, helping them with employment or entry requirements. Transition services begin well before the completion of the program and continue after participants have successfully completed the instructional component of the program. Transition staff are responsible for transition and follow-up services, and their work with participants will take place primarily at the end of the participant's time in the program. Transition services may include providing career information and resume writing, interview prep, assistance with completing an application, job application assistance, referrals for job search, um, maybe referring for assistance with opening a business, referring to community colleges for more training, or referring to American Job Centers, among others. And so barrier reduction funds may be used for any application fees that maybe some of those referrals require. Some of these services can be provided while participants are completing their training as well. Transition staff must also dedicate time to building relationships with employers and training programs, as well as registered apprenticeship programs and with contractors to set up connections and resources for participants once they are ready to transition. Responsibilities include, but may not be limited to, developing and maintaining relationships with transition partners, including clean energy employers, again, DOL registered apprenticeship programs, community colleges, and contractors, contractor, construction employers, among others. Working with partners, including employers, to provide transition services such as interview practice, job fairs, classroom visits, and more. So the pre-transition career assessment and plan is conducted 3 to 4 weeks prior to the end of the training. So this is when transition staff should be meeting one-on-one with each participant to complete and update a career assessment. The career assessment is comprehensive, intended to determine participants' skill levels and service needs, barriers to employment or apprenticeship placement, occupational goals, and career pathways. This career assessment and plan address the occupational knowledge, skills, and abilities associated with their career goals and the services needed to reach those goals. The assessment and plan document the participant's career decision. For instance, the assessment and the plan documents the participant's career decision. For instance, which jobs maybe that they want to apply to. It also lists the services that the grantee will provide to help the applicant reach their career plan goals. Information from the career assessment and the career plan will be entered into the CEJA reporting system so that grantees can track their goals, outcomes, and transition services that need to be delivered. So a copy of the career assessment and career plan is available also in the partner guide. Transition services may include providing career information, resume writing, and prepping for job interviews, among others. In developing the career plan, you will indicate which transition services will be you will provide for the participants so that you can assist them. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's just review this transition. I can't talk today. This transition and career services screen slide. This is showing you some of the transition and career services that will be available in the CEJA reporting system for you to select, such as vocational exploration, which is career awareness, to learn about the variety of careers and occupations available. I'm not going to read every single word on this slide because I know you all can read. Um, Career planning and case management, that's another service that you can offer, which is more one-on-one assistance and career counseling. Group workforce workshops and activities is another service that's available for you to offer, where you might work in it with group activities or workshops. Career fairs is another service you can offer. Um, that's a great opportunity, obviously, to meet employers and learn about different careers. Next slide. Just a continuation of some career services. There's job search activities and assistance. There are post-secondary prep and transition activities you may offer, which is when assistance with preparing to apply for post-secondary education or training in a related field, maybe a community college. And then there's also a service of out-of-area job search or relocation. We know sometimes someone might get a job offer that's kind of far away. Next slide. Okay. If individuals who complete are unable to get a clean energy job right away, transition staff must work with them to find temporary employment or on-the-job training from clean energy employers while they are waiting. Transition staff must help connect participants to clean energy contractors in their network to facilitate job placement and other on-the-job training opportunities. Transition staff are expected to help the team meet the outcome metrics outlined in the grantee agreement. Next slide, please. Okay. Grantees must continue to provide comprehensive wraparound support services during the transition and follow-up period, which is the 12 months following the program completion, to facilitate smooth transitions into jobs. Again, you can see Chapter 6 for information about available wraparound supports. The need for supportive services does not end when the program is complete. During the application or the job search period, applicants may still need help with transportation and maybe childcare, and these needs may continue for the first few months after they've received a job, before they are able to cover the costs themselves. So, as much as possible, a program should coordinate services with the local community also. Student support services such as mentoring or tutoring must also still be available during the transition and follow-up period as needed. Next slide. Okay. Grantees are strongly encouraged to enter program graduates into the Illinois Power Agency's Energy Workforce Equity Portal. That's a long one. The Energy Workforce Equity Portal is an online source designed to help connect clean energy companies with equitable eligible persons looking to work in the clean energy sector in Illinois. Making these connections is a key aspect of ensuring that the clean energy industry in Illinois grows in an equitable manner. Equity eligible persons can use this portal to post their availability to entities seeking to hire equitable eligible persons and developers of clean energy projects, such as approved vendors and designees in the adjustable block grant, the adjustable block programs, or developers of utility scale wind and solar projects. Can also use this portal to post clean energy jobs and to search for equitable eligible persons. So through this portal, graduates may be matched with contractors and apprenticeship programs based on geography and trade needs. A participant will not be verified as completion till they have been entered into the system. They can be entered into the system as soon as they are enrolled. I also want to mention that we have videos in your partner guide specifically showing and talking about the Workforce Equity Portal. So you can hear from the Illinois Power Agency team on what that portal is all about, and they do walk you through in the video how to do this. Next slide. Okay. To add program graduates into the system, grantees will need the following information. Basic contact information, including phone numbers and email addresses, employment status, trade interests, graduation date, mode of transportation, distance the individuals willing to travel for work, and their resume. Participant profiles must be updated on at least a quarterly basis for the first year after graduation. For more information about how to navigate the system, again, refer to the partner guide. We have several different videos on this. Next slide. Okay. Okay. Participant profiles must be updated at least on a quarterly basis for the first year after graduation. And next slide. So transition staff are expected to conduct active follow-up with participants after transition from the program for the first year, post-transition, and once per year thereafter until the grant ends. There are many ways to stay in touch with program graduates, including through surveys, focus groups, or phone, text, social media, and email check-ins. The purpose of follow-up, the purpose of the follow-up activities is to determine participants' additional needs, to receive valuable feedback about program services, and to verify progress and outcomes. The first year post-transition is a period when individuals may be most vulnerable to dropping out of the program. So after follow-up, active follow-up check-ins are required at the following intervals, though more frequent follow-ups may be needed based on individual circumstances. So you can see on the slide, we are recommending 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. During each follow-up contact, grantees will ask graduates a series of questions to gather information about their employment status or their progress in an apprenticeship program. Sample follow-up questions are available in the CEJA reporting system. For those pursuing a registered apprenticeship program, transition staff will determine if the alum has applied for an apprenticeship program, is waiting, maybe on a waiting list, or has been enrolled in the program. The transition services coordinator will follow up to determine the trade information, the current employment status, and if the participant needs additional assistance with referrals, wraparound services, mentorship, or other resources. For those not pursuing a registered apprenticeship because they are no longer interested, or maybe that just isn't their career goal. I know a lot of these programs are not necessarily pre-apprenticeship that you're all providing. The grantee must find out if the alum was dropped from the apprenticeship waiting list. And then these follow-up check-ins are also important. These follow-up check-ins are also opportunities to provide encouragement, answer questions, and assess the need for more services. As with other kinds of assessments, connections, and follow-ups throughout the CEJA workforce programs, coordinators and other grantee staff must uphold the six equity value and communicate clearly with care, empathy, sensitivity to the diverse needs and situations of participants. Embrace differences and remember that individual characteristics and challenges do not define a person's whole identity. Any follow-up services offered must be tracked in the CEJA reporting system. Next slide, please. Follow-up services and activities after employment and/or apprenticeship placement facilitate further development and boost retention. Active follow-up services include but are not limited to any follow-up services offered but must be tracked in the CEJA reporting system. Next slide, please. Long-term follow-up beyond the first year of active tracking, CEJA workforce programs will employ a study to track employment and outcomes every year for up to 10 years leaving the system. I know there's gonna be a lot of questions on this. We're still we're gonna be here to try to help figure this one out, but the study is essential to determine the effectiveness of CEJA workforce programs and the grantees' impact on individuals, communities, and the economy. Grantees are expected to assist with this study during the duration of their grant. For more information regarding this study, refer to Section 12, Using Data for Program Management and Continuous Improvement. So, questions. What challenges might you see in delivering follow-up and transition services? How can you succeed despite these challenges? Put your thoughts in the chat. If we don't get to them by the end of this presentation, we will answer your questions when we send everything out. Next. Okay. Um, again, just see the partner guide for any your exit interview questionnaire, participant satisfaction survey, career assessment questions, and the sample career plan, sample follow-up questions, and sample dismissal letters. This information is all embedded in the CEJA reporting system, but you can actually see the hard copy in your partner guide. Next. What questions do you have about program completion, transition services, and follow-up? Please post those in the chat so we can get answers for you. And then next slide is just general questions. Again, please post those in the chat and we will provide answers. Upcoming sessions. So part B, as in boy, to this presentation will be held on February 4th, and that will be held by our CEJA reporting system team. So they're going to show you a lot of what we talked about and where it is in the CEJA reporting system and how it works and how you see it and how you enroll. So that's what they'll be going over on these Part B trainings. So be sure you have these on your calendar. And if for some reason you don't have this information, just let one of us know so we can make sure you get that link. And last but not least is contact information, your grant managers, as well as the three RAs. I am this in the southern region. Nate Keener is the central region, and Larry Dawson is the northern region. And again, we will go through these questions in the chat and make sure we get answers to you all. And actually, we have 8 minutes, so can try to answer a few questions here.
There was one question in the chat that Sarah has answered, but I thought it might be helpful to just reshare for anyone who hasn't seen yet. If someone re-enrolls, do they still receive a stipend? And that answer is yes, they still will.
Yeah, so they should always receive a stipend when they're in instructional training. Re-enrollment, if you have questions around that, you might want to talk to your grant manager RA about that when that time comes to make sure, it's needs to really be a re-enrollment. So let me see what else we have. I know there was a lot of information, so sometimes you may not even know what questions to ask yet. So again, if you haven't thought of a question and maybe you do think of one later on after this is all soaking in, and even after, you'll probably have more after the CEDAR reporting system, we can always talk them over at our TA Tuesdays. Sometimes we have scheduled sessions, but sometimes we just do an open office hours just for you to bring up questions. And also, I know RAs and grant managers frequently meet with grantees on a regular basis, so that's also a good time to ask your specific questions. I see one during the year following completion. Do the participants qualify for barrier reduction services too? For example, a car plate for renewal. As long as they're not exited, they qualify for barrier reduction services. So, you need to keep them uh, not exited until you're confident that they don't need additional services. But once they're actually completely exited from the program, then you're just doing general follow-up, just making sure, checking in on them, getting outcome information. Great. Anything else we can try to answer before we hop off? Okay. Again, we will send out this entire presentation slides, the recording. I think we answered everything in the questions, but I mean in the chat. But we'll go through them one more time just to be sure. And just thank you all for participating. I know it was a long day. I mean, a long couple hours. It feels like all day. So, hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you back again at the next session tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. And know that if you were unable to make it to those CEJA office hours that kind of overlap with this, that recording as well will be sent out with this.
Thank you. Yep. All right. See y'all.
All right. Have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.